Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Neil Levesque. I'm the Executive Director here at the nationally known New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College. We are so happy to be hosting this fantastic event that we do every 4 years. Basically because New Hampshire is the place where if you want to practice your civic activities and be part of democracy, this is the place to come. So once again, we're hosting this lesser-known candidate forum at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics. I want to welcome up our Secretary of State, David Scanlon, who's going to provide some opening remarks. David.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you, Neil. And thank you to St. Anselm's College and the Institute of Politics for hosting this event, and especially Ann Kamen, who has put a lot of work into this, and the students that help out with the registration and the logistics. We appreciate the very experienced, well-known, and highly respected panelist of journalists today. We have Holly Raymer from AP, who will be asking questions, and Kevin Landrigan from the Union Leader. Both have done this before and have done a great job. Most of all, we appreciate all the candidates that have shown up today for this event. This is a tremendous opportunity for you, and it's a great opportunity for the voters of New Hampshire to have you here. This is the 14th lesser-known candidate forum that has been held once every 4 years since 1972. So if you do the math, that spans a period of more than 50 years. This event has become an iconic part of the New Hampshire First in the Nation tradition. The Lesser Known Candidate Forum is a great example of the importance of the First in the Nation New Hampshire presidential primary. New Hampshire may be the only state that provides a true opportunity for any qualified United States citizen who aspires to become president to actually try and make it happen. And you're seeing it happen here today. An example of the other side of that equation is recently there was a very large state in the South that decided to cancel their presidential primary and simply certify the nomination of the incumbent president of the United States, bypassing this process. In New Hampshire, ballot access is very easy, and running for president in this state does not require high name recognition, great wealth, or political connections. Simply a willingness to walk down any main street in New Hampshire and have the ability to connect with voters. All of the candidates here today are a testament to that fact. In the end, the voters of New Hampshire will decide their choice for being the nominee for president of the United States, and that's the way it should be. Also, for the candidates, having the ability to compete at the beginning of the nominating process of states is critically important to their success. If they can do well in New Hampshire, they can carry that forward to other states. Whereas if this process occurred at the end of the nominating process, it would be pretty much meaningless. So with that, good luck to all of you in this forum tonight. And with that, I would like to introduce Josh McKelvin, who's going to be our moderator. And Josh is a well-known media personality in the state and has done this before and done a fine job. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Secretary Scanlon, everyone. I've never done it with 18 candidates, so we are going to move things along quickly. A couple rules of the road, though. No props, hold your applause, and don't be disruptive. Be respectful of the people next to you. I appreciate you all, what you're doing. It's not an easy thing to do, but we call you lesser-known candidates. Maybe there's a diamond in the rough here. So to get things started, let's start at the top row, left to right. Introduce yourself, tell us where you're from and why you're running.
Good. Mic check, 1, 2. Thank you all for being here, and thank you to the Institute of Politics for allowing me to have a platform and to share this stage. I am Frankie Lozada, and I am honored to share my story and vision for the future of America with you all. I'm a proud American with a Puerto Rican heritage, shaped by the streets of Hollis, New York. For the past 15 years, I've organized events across the country, but it was my experience working with asylum-seeking families and unaccompanied minors at the Mexican border that really changed my life. I'm not a typical politician. I don't accept corporate funding. I rely on grassroots support. I've seen the flaws in our system, and it's time for a change. My vision goes beyond politics. I want to uplift minority communities, boost businesses, home ownership, and education. What sets me apart is my commitment to the 99% of Americans who deserve better. I believe in eliminating dirty money in politics. It's time for term limits and time to focus on fighting poverty in America. My dedication also intends to honor the sacrifices of our veterans and make sure that we dedicate our resources so that no veteran is ever left homeless, sick, alone, or deported. I stand for unity, leading with love in a time of divisiveness. As Martin Luther King Jr. said, love is the greatest force in the universe. Together, we can bring America back together, prioritize education, and create opportunities for all. Before I end, I'd like to remember Roberto Clemente's words. Anytime you have an opportunity to make a difference in this world and you don't, then you're wasting your time on earth. I am running to make a difference, to lift Latino spirits and remind every American that their voice matters. Together, we can shake the world and make Americans dream again. Thank you, and let's create a brighter future for all Americans.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Mr. Lyons, let's hold our applause until everyone's finished, just in interest of time. Mr. Lyons, please. Take 90 seconds.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Patrick Lyons. I'm from Montgomery County, Maryland. I was asked by this prestigious institution a few questions. What is the most single important issue to me in this election? I couldn't answer that because I had quite a few serious issues. The economy, taking care of our kids and U.S. citizens first, protecting our American children, China threats to our national security, closing the borders, drug and human trafficking, becoming self-efficient again, climate change, balancing the budget, mental health care, cyber warfare, taking back our streets and neighborhoods from all the thieves, robbers, rapists, murderers, and all other criminals. Social security for senior citizens so they don't have to go back to work again after they retire and worry about paying their bills. Women's rights to be able to make their choice for their bodies. Both sides of our government are broken. Nothing gets done. The last three administrations ran this deficit up so high that our future generations will never be able to pay it off. I have no illusions. I'm coming in the fourth quarter with minutes left against the millionaires, the billionaires, and large greedy corporations that are heavily influencing and shaping the way they want the United States to be run. No sir, no ma'am. I stand here in front of you this afternoon with no IOUs or silver coins in my pocket. I cannot be bought or bribed. I'm untouchable. Always have been and always will be. My shield now belongs to your shield of protection.
Got to ask you to wrap it up.
So all you Democrats, all you Republicans, and all you independents, I'm moderate as they come. Please go to my website, read, and please donate. Lyons 2024, Lyons. I'm starting tomorrow. You can follow me on my Twitter and Instagram. Both are spelled 2024. I am
Thank you,
Stephen
sir.
Patrick Lyons. I'm the last of my kind, a dying breed.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Appreciate that. Next.
Good evening. My name is Raymond Moroz from New York. Slava Ukraine and defeat Hamas. Thank you to St. Anselm's College for inviting me, and thank you to C-SPAN for all those programming that you do, especially the book festivals around the U.S. I've learned so much from all those authors that you feature. I'm running for president to protect the workers and the working class. If elected, I would help protect the middle class by increasing unions and union membership. To do that, I would increase the powers of the National Labor Relations Board to find the big corporations, Amazon, Walmart, Tesla, that are fighting unions tooth and nail. And most of all, and profoundly, I would like to thank President Biden for being the first sitting president to walk the picket line in the UAW strike. This has helped the labor movement tremendously in a positive way. Not like President Reagan, who back in the day fired all the air traffic controllers, and since then, that has given the corporations the go-ahead to crucify labor unions. And as a result, unionization in the United States is down to 10% today. We need at least 30 to 40% to help keep the corporations honest, and give these workers good wages.
Got about 10 seconds left.
I would also like to thank President Harris' Biden team for the lowest unemployment rate in 60 years, under 4%. So please vote your own economic interests and benefit by voting Democrat. And I would also like to, if you don't vote for me, write in Biden to help the workers. And if you're Irish,
Thank you, sir.
make President Biden proud and County Mayo proud in Ireland. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Next.
Thank you, St. Anselms, for having me here. My name is Derek Nato. I was born and raised here in New Hampshire. Born and raised here, right here in New Hampshire, right down the road in Merrimack. I attended public high school and community college right here in New Hampshire, and went on to learn from some of the greatest mentors a guy could ever ask for. I'm a small business owner, inventor, and was recently referred for 2 jobs at NASA. I have several green energy patents pending examination in the USPTO, which I submitted to Patents for Humanity. I solve problems and connect people. It's what I do. My main goal running for President of the United States is to put the power back into the people's hands. For far too long, our government was formed on a 3-branch system in which we've seen these powers go unchecked, abused, and thrown out of balance to negatively affect our people. I believe now more than ever, America is looking for a people's champion, one who is not a lifetime politician, corporate liaison, or a dictator. This is going to take tackling issues and making changes that many people and politicians are unwilling to touch. But these are very real issues facing our country today and need to be dealt with. I believe in putting people first. I believe we need someone willing to put people ahead of their own interests. I have, in fact, put my own money, time, and energy into running for office. In fact, I'm donating my campaign proceeds to the state of New Hampshire in the form of energy projects and after-school programs for children. I
Gotta wrap it,
encourage
sir.
everyone at this table and not at this table to do the same. I'm asking the American people to stop voting for their favorite color and who you trust your children's future with.
All right, we're out of time. I apologize. I wish I had more flexibility, folks, but we got to keep it moving just in the interest of time. Thank you very much. Next one.
America needs an upgrade. Our country is entangled in too many foreign wars. Our Congress is completely dysfunctional. Our borders are being overrun, and our leadership is geriatric. It's time to pass the torch to a new generation of Americans, like the people at this table, who are standing up and putting their hat in the ring. We need people that understand new technologies and understand the 21st century while remaining committed to the values that are eternal here in America: liberty, justice for all, the pursuit of happiness. I'm a unique candidate submitting myself for public service. I have been working in the world of business and philanthropy and with colleges and universities for the last 25 years of my life. I've worked at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. I've been a turnaround leader. I've invested in more than 20 entrepreneurs who have created more than 1,000 jobs and $1 billion in market capitalization. We need someone who actually knows how to fix things and bring solutions to this country. That's what I've done over the course of my life. I've architected a platform that's based on 3 pillars that I want to briefly explain to you.
You got about 20 seconds to do it.
And I will do it in 20 seconds. The first is conscious capitalism. There is a way, invented here in New England, to reorganize our economy around B corporations instead of C corporations. We can invest in our people first and upskill them for jobs of the 21st century, and we can modernize government. But it's
Gotta wrap it
only
up.
something that we can do together.
And your name, sir?
Jason Palmer
Thank you
from
much.
Baltimore, Maryland.
Next.
Good afternoon. My name is Donald Picard, and I am from Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I am so happy to be here today. I want to begin by thanking the organizers of this forum. When I began this rather quixotic journey a few months ago, I had as a stretch goal that I would be participating in a presidential debate. And here I am. Like, wow. I also want to thank the other panelists, and I'm honored that we're sharing the ballot together. It's very exciting. I want to be clear, too, that I don't feel like I am running against President Joe Biden, and not just because his name isn't on the ballot. I feel that voters are just clamoring to be able to make a choice, and it's not healthy for our democracy and for the Democratic Party in particular in this case, for there to be a presumptive nominee. I wanted to have my name on the ballot so that people could make a choice. I fully expect that they'll choose Biden. That's okay. I just want them to vote, because I think that if they vote in the primary, and if the primary is active and healthy and exciting, they're much more likely to come when it's time for the general. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next candidate.
Hello.
Hello.
The average American is lucky if they have $400 in their bank account for a rainy day. Since the pandemic, 700 billionaires have increased their wealth by $2.2 trillion. The politicians and leaders are doing theater on us. We need to start spreading love, and we need to do that in a major way. Ha, paper, yeah. It's our time. I'm Paperboy Love Prince, an artist, activist, and author who's built a movement of over 80,000 strong based on love and creative solutions for the future. We need more policies based strictly on love. We need policies that give positive reinforcement. The same way that you can get a ticket for doing something bad or doing something negative, you should be able to get a love ticket for doing something positive in your community and helping out your fellow people. When I'm president, I'll give away $1 million each to 1 million people in the country every year that are doing something positive for their community as a way to inspire and help motivate positive change. We need bold, drastic solutions to spread love instead of funding war and genocide in places like Gaza and Congo to keep our economy alive.
10 seconds, sir.
Right now, most politicians lean on division and fear to control you. I'm here to drive you with love, inspiration, and logic. Ha, paper, yeah. It's our time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Next candidate, please.
Hey, America. My name is Richard Rist, and I'm a candidate for President of the United States. As a veteran, it would be my honor to serve as your next Commander-in-Chief. It would be impossible for me to introduce myself in 2 minutes, but you can go to richardrist.com and read all about me there. You'll learn that I'm an independent Democrat and a complete outsider to politics. So I'm really Team America. I love all Americans, regardless of how you vote. You'll learn that I've been on my own since I was 14 years old, after my father was murdered. You'll learn that I'm a dad and come from a big family of veterans, life member of the VFW. My 4 years in the Navy took me all over the world, including most of Europe, the Middle East, and North Africa. I worked my way through college as a bartender, so shout out to all the food service people out there. After college, I worked as a stockbroker, served on the board for the University of Baltimore, then went to work for an economic think tank. Not too shabby for a street kid from the trailer park. For the last 20 years, I've been the owner of the large art company, and we make bronze statuary for public art. I personally specialize in military monuments, and there are over 700 monuments around the country with my name on them. You'll also discover that I'm single. Yeah, I know we've never had a single president before, but we've never had a presidential wedding before either.
About 10 seconds, please.
Whoa. If you don't vote for me, it's going to be the start of the zombie apocalypse.
Thank you for your service, sir. Appreciate that.
That's right. That's right. Then the Starship Enterprise is going to have to come to Earth and save the world. I'm happy to share my secrets about defeating the zombies, but for now, just remember,
Sir, you're out of time.
Richard Rist will prevent the zombie apocalypse.
Thank you very
Join Team
much.
America.
We got to move on. Thank you very much. I don't know if this qualifies as a lesser-known candidate, at least here in New Hampshire, but next candidate, you're up, sir.
My fellow Americans and others, as your president, I have promised to engage in hostilities only with powers that I deem to be a real and immediate threat to our peace-loving nation. And that is why I have ordered the Interdimensional Strategic Space Horse Command to commence bombing of Narnia in 5 minutes. If we do not fight them in their dimension there, we will have no choice but to fight them in our dimension here. The orcs are an existential threat to our way of life. We will not stop until we have reached Middle Earth and the last orc is dead. In this uncertain time, we must unite as a country. Let us all pray for our fearsome flying unmanned robot pony drones as they rain fire and death upon our subhuman enemies and innocent wedding parties and lots of non-combatant hobbits.
All right, we do have to wrap it. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mr. Supreme. Moving down to the next table.
Sherman2024.com. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Vale. I'm from Easton, up in the White Mountains. The first thing about me is I'm not fit to be president of the United States. I thought my age, 77, would rule me out, but that apparently doesn't. But there are other things that disqualify me. So there is a good reason to vote for me. Let me make a couple of observations. There are many people who are hysterical about Donald Trump. I am hysterical about money in politics and getting it out. The largest piece of our common ground in this culture is this concern about money in politics. Notice that the people who went in on January 6th, that was one of their primary issues, elites and money control of government. I do understand that there's a huge difference between Tweedledee and Tweedledum in this election. So why vote for me? The question for 2024 is what, not who. We're at the end of this dream of electing some who is going to solve this problem. What we need to do is elect what, and the what is money out of politics. It's the only thing that's going to get us out of this thing. There's a thing of, are our votes only about who? But that's not really, doesn't seem like much of a vote. You know, you can choose between Tweedledum or Tweedledee or somebody who has no chance. I'm saying let's vote for what, which is money out of politics, and we are entitled as citizens to vote in that way. I want this job done. I don't care who does it. I want money out of politics. I don't
10
care
seconds,
who the
Mr. Bill.
tradesman is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Down to the front table, and Ms. Bukovac.
Thank you. Yes, Teresa Bukovac, Washington, D.C. It's an honor to be here. I'm a progressive atheist and activist, and have come to see that to be truly anti-capitalist and anti-fascist, that we must reject the abortion industry, and particularly later abortion. Every single day in this nation, thousands of families feel that they must choose between making ends meet and having their unborn child killed. Meanwhile, every year in this nation, 10,000 abortions happen very late in pregnancy, many of them for non-medical reasons. 4 in 10 Democrats agree that abortion should be restricted to the first trimester, and yet this view is totally unrepresented in the Democratic Party. I founded the group Pro-Life San Francisco and later Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising, and last year I recovered the remains of over 115 aborted babies outside an all-term abortion center. 5 of them were past 30 weeks. Many of them were whole, some of them were completely dismembered. It was the worst experience of my life, but they were all unmistakably human.
10 seconds.
This has changed my life forever. I am not running for president to be president. I'm running to disrupt the status quo on what I believe to be the most egregious human rights atrocity of our time. I have seen and held in my own hands the victims of my party's abortion extremism, and I will not be silenced. Through my campaign, you will hear me, and you
gotta wrap it
will
up, ma'am.
see them. please go to my website, teresa2024.com. We can build a
Thank
better
you, ma'am.
world, and it starts here in New Hampshire.
Thank you very much. Next candidate, please.
Hello, my name is Eben Cambridge. I am from Oakland, California. The reason why I'm running is because I've always been involved in politics. As an Eagle Scout with Troop 409 out of my church in Allen Temple, I got to see the value of the people sitting here contributing to their community. The reason why I'm running now is because I think as a political science major out of Hampton University, there are objective answers to a lot of the questions and issues that we have. For example, in terms of the middle class, we need a tax cut for overtime wages so that people feel encouraged to actually go to work. We need a tax on corporations buying housing in residential areas. Single-family housing is very hard for people in my generation to buy. And if we tax corporations at 30% to keep them out of the market, that would help. Those things would pass without a filibuster. And so the reason why I'm running is because I have actual solutions for a lot of our problems that no one is talking about. In terms of Israel, we need a one-state solution. That is a united Israel where Palestinians and Israelis are not separate but equal, but are joined together as one nation. In terms of the filibuster, we need the nuclear option. We need to get rid of the filibuster so Democrats can focus on things like election reform, police reform, marijuana legalization, things that we've talked about for years, but we have not been able
10
to
seconds.
do, and the American public is wanting us to do. Go to Cambridge, vote Cambridge 24 at Instagram and at Twitter, and look up my policies,
All right.
and please support at GoFundMe, vote Cambridge
Thank you, sir.
2024.
Next candidate, please.
Hey, good evening. I want to start off by thanking everybody the opportunity to express our vision for America. I must address something that happened yesterday in my community. I'm from Las Vegas. Yesterday there was a mass shooting on UNLV's campus. So my thoughts are with my community, and I want to encourage my community to continue to demonstrate what Vegas strong means. But to the rest of my fellow Americans, my name is Gabriel Cornejo. I'm actually an entrepreneur. Truth be told, I'm really just the guy that does work when work needs to be done. I've lived in 11 cities in 2 countries, and in my experience and wisdom I've gained from all of these places, I've learned that everybody in those communities values their family, their friends, and their community most of all. And at this time, in this moment, I believe that we can vastly improve the experience that we're all sharing together in this nation. And some of those actions that are required to make that experience greater is taking bold action. The most obvious is the state of our healthcare. It's atrocious. I lived in a society where there was universal healthcare. The peace of mind that comes on that society is vastly different than we're having today. Secondarily, we have this growing wealth disparity. And with this wealth disparity, we have many in our community that are just barely surviving. And something that Andrew Yang popularized with his run in 2020 was the freedom dividend.
10 seconds.
And I am profoundly in favor of that because I'd like to help all Americans take the transition of just surviving to thriving. So please come, gabe2024.com, and help me renovate America.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate that. And our final introduction for Democratic presidential candidate. Take it away.
Thank you. My name is Paul LaCava from the city of Worcester, Mass. I want to thank everyone in attendance. I want to thank the students. I teach at a college, and I've had over 5,000 students. Every issue that is brought up here tonight is very relevant and important to changing the fabric of our lives. I want to thank the Secretary of State. I am on the ballot this evening because of my students. They believe that you need to be powerful, well-connected, and be of an elite class in order to participate at the highest rung of our democracy. That is not true. I may not win, but everyone has a right to run. And we need not to forget that as we proceed. My background, my first professional job was a street counselor for the homeless, the first shelter in the city of Worcester. We had a drug problem back then. We have a serious opioid problem today. We have a serious mental health problem. To the students here, we have a crisis in our education system. We need to be more current for the challenges that are facing us in the future. Finally, we need to talk about immigration in this country. People that are waiting in line for several years to be legally brought into our country, there is no need for that. People that are in our country currently, we need to find a pathway to make them productive citizens. We are all the same. We are a divided country, and we need to come back and be a unified country. And my fan
10 seconds, please.
in life is Robert Kennedy. Some people see things as they are, and he said, I see things that never were, and ask why not. We need to change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all candidates for the introductions. How about we interject some Q&A into this debate? I'd also like to recognize Mark Stewart Greenstein, who's also a Democratic candidate. Paperwork issue kept him from being on the stage, but thank you for being here. Appreciate that. First question comes from, who's got the first one? I forget. I'm sorry. Holly Raymer from the Associated Press.
As Mr. Cornejo just mentioned, we're here just a day after gunmen killed 3 people and wounded a 4th in Nevada. And just a few weeks after, right here in New Hampshire, a security guard at a psychiatric hospital was shot and killed. What, if anything, needs to happen at the federal level to prevent this kind of violence? Do you want to start with? Yeah, sure.
Check. Testing. There we go. All right. I appreciate the question. Okay, so I alluded to living in another country. That country was Canada. And while I lived up there, I assessed why it is that they're so polite, why it is that they have this reputation of being so kind, right? And the 3 things that I concluded away from it was the peace of mind that comes with universal health care, right? They don't have a war on drugs like we do, which is in perpetuity, unfortunately. But the third one was that they don't all have firearms. Now, I'm not against the Second Amendment. I understand it has its place, especially at the time that it was enacted. But if we're being honest with each other, there is a distinction between having a firearm to defend yourself and then a firearm that has no place in public setting. But in terms of taking away guns, I don't think that that's going to be something that most Americans are going to be in favor of. But I do think that it is important to regulate where and when these guns can be utilized. So if you're a sportsman,
Gotta wrap it
if
up.
you're a hunter, these distinctions, along with training, mental health assessments, these are all actions that I believe will take us into a safer place than what we have now, which is basically a lot of loopholes when it comes to regulation.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Lozada, would you like to weigh in on this? I got to ask you guys to keep your answers under a minute, unlike the opening statements, just so we can get to as many people as possible, please.
What it comes down to is accountability. We have to raise that accountability because what's happening is too many folks are getting access to guns they're not supposed to have. Whether it is background checks, whether it is some kind of training, I think everybody who's going to own a firearm should have that training. One, to understand the power that they have in their hands, and to be able to know what it can do. Now, with accountability, as far as access to guns, I believe that every piece of a weapon should have a blockchain indicator that can be traced, because guns can be taken apart in parts. I need to know where every part came from, who it can be tracked down to from the first person to manufacture to purchase. That'll reduce ghost guns in the streets, which means less crime and gangs. And once you start holding people accountable, you start paying a little attention to their security.
So strength in tracking enforcement. Next.
Yep.
I agree with both.
You agree with that?
I agree with both these gentlemen, but I'll go a little further. I would make it a law they had to have not boxes, but safes. Not safe that you can open with digital. It has to be spun barrel though. We definitely need to touch more on these guns and make better laws, mental health like they said, and everything like that. I believe in the Second Amendment. I do, but we need to change some of the laws to protect the people.
All right, thank you very much. Ma'am? you like to weigh in?
Sure. I mean,
You guys got to be ready because I can't. So there you go.
I think that we do not have a culture of life in this country. We literally allow unborn children to be murdered with impunity through the 9th month of pregnancy in like 7 states in this nation. And so I recognize that we do have a gun problem in this country and that we do need some common sense gun laws. But we also need to recognize that we have another genocide going on, and the death toll for that is in the tens of thousands every single year. We need to acknowledge that and take that very seriously, especially as Democrats, because it is our party that is perpetuating this injustice.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that. Sir, go ahead.
All right, so as a EMT, as a licensed EMT, I actually transport people that are a danger to themselves, or known as 5150s. We need a website, as a web developer, we need a website so medical professionals, when someone self-admits that they're a danger to themselves, they can go on the website, enter that, and it gets flagged. So law enforcement agents are actually going to that person's house in getting their guns if they have acknowledged that they are a danger to self. Also, what we need to do is have free gun registration across the board so that people can easily register their guns and we can track those guns. Once again, though, if you look at Uvalde and a lot of these other situations, these are people that we knew had mental health issues before they went out on a rampage, but we don't have a system where that we can check and take their guns before they do it. And the federal government could do this now, they just haven't.
We've got to let your fellow candidates let's move down the line. Next.
I think it's a two-tier problem. Number one, I think the firepower that's on the street needs to be checked. I also think that people that want to get illegal guns will secure illegal guns. I think we have a bigger problem in this country with mental health. I think we need to look at the families, our children, and why are our children turning towards destruction with weapons. I firmly believe in the Second Amendment. I believe that there's probably too much firepower on the street for what is needed, but I think that there's an inadequate amount of help for our children relative to the issues they're going through today. And I want to give Manchester a shout out for their Engage program dealing with opioid crisis in this community.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very innovative here. Ms. Mraz.
Anybody know how many guns there are in the United States? 400 million. It's insanity. You got to take them away. Who needs an AR-15 to go hunting? Regular hunting rifle. You don't need an AR-15. And back in the day, this Supreme Court Justice Berger, I believe, he said that Second Amendment interpretation was the greatest travesty in history. It's insane. And the number one cause of death with guns is suicide. It's a mental health issue. I mean, you got to take these guns away. And some of these people that have guns like 200, 300 guns in their house.
So reduce access is what you think is the most important thing.
Yes.
Mr. Nato?
Yes.
First, I do believe in the Second Amendment. Also, I didn't appreciate my time getting cut short earlier, but I believe in digitizing.
I'll give you 3 more seconds.
The gun records. The goal is going to be to keep guns out of the hands of both felons and people who have them. So digitizing the gun records is going to be crucial to that. I also believe in creating reoccurring revenue through that process. So the United States actually has terrorism insurance, but we do not have mass violence or gun down violence. And I think we need the reoccurring revenue from that as well. So digitizing the gun records and keeping them out of the hands of people who should not have them, which includes felons and mentally unstable.
I'm not going to shortchange somebody from the 603. Come on. Next candidate, please.
So this issue is why 90% of young Americans are tuning out of our politics. This issue has occurred over and over and over in schools across America,
And we have not come up with a bipartisan plan to resolve it. I have a bipartisan plan to resolve it. It's called gun violence reduction. It respects the Second Amendment, and the right of people to bear arms, but it also focuses on evidence-based solutions that we know work to reduce gun violence. Those include things like gun training for new gun owners. Those include things like preventing semi-automatic weapons from being in the homes of people who've been convicted of domestic violence. Those involve red flag laws related to the mental health of individuals.
Got to wrap.
You'll notice that I'm saying this very calmly, and the reason why is because people get very inflamed over this issue, but there is a bipartisan, evidence-based way to solve this problem, and as president, I intend to solve it within the first year of my administration.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Next candidate.
Hi, I'm a software engineer, and so maybe this is just a different way of looking at the problem. But I think that we're focusing too much on the people who carry guns and not on the people who choose not to. I actually think that it's possible, using technology, to make it so that people are aware if there's a gun in the room. I don't care who has the gun. I just want to know that it's there so that I could choose to be elsewhere. I would like there to be no gun restaurants because you could walk into the restaurant and know that no guns were there, rather than kind of like non-smoking areas that we used to have back in the day when everyone smoked. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Next candidate, please. 30 seconds.
Right now, we have a culture of gun violence in this country. We have a extreme gun culture, and what we need is an extreme love culture. If we're not actually coming together and spreading love in a real way, this gentleman next to me, I didn't have a water in front of me, and he said, you know, hey, let's split it, and gave me some water. If we don't have energy in the world that wants people to come together with love, then they're gonna keep pushing each other away with hate. Right now, the gun violence, first off, it's a local issue. This is a thing that's not so much a national issue as it is local and needs to be taken care of in each locality. But the biggest thing is coming together with love and creating what I called love centers where folks can come together and learn about each other and why we are valuable as a community.
And that water might have made them a millionaire if you become elected president. So, Mr. Riss, next.
Sure, yeah. This is one of the reasons I came into this race. Democrats and Republicans can't talk to one another. And the reason is because Democrats want to go for all or nothing on guns, and the conservatives want to go all or nothing on abortion. And so each side digs themselves in. It isn't that Americans don't generally agree that there should be more gun safety laws. They do, overwhelmingly, by the polls. And yet, nothing ever seems to pass. And the reason is because the politicians don't feel comfortable that they can get behind it. What they need is a president. And, oh, by the way, on abortion, it's the same thing, right? You know, Democrats fail to acknowledge that abortions are sad.
About 10 seconds.
And unfortunate. And yet, they never acknowledge that. They just want to talk about it as a right. And that's the same thing Republicans are doing with their gun rights. And so it's a Duggan situation. And I was a Republican turned Democrat, grew up in rural North Carolina. I understand gun owners.
Got to wrap it up, sir.
So I just think there needs to be more bipartisan conversations about this and bring gun owners to the table and talk with them.
All right. So working together. I mean, that's obviously problem solving 101 right there. Mr. Supreme, give it a shot.
Vermin Supreme will take away your guns and give you better ones. And these better guns will shoot marshmallows, but they will still be lethal. But I would like to address this recent internet rumor that I'm some sort of super evil villain trying to create human-pony hybrids, turning humans into ponies. I'm
10 seconds.
Not such experiments. No, but I do support the surgical creation of human-pony hybrids.
Thank you, Mr. Supreme. Appreciate that, Mr. Vail.
Thank you.
There's more on a website, sendnomoney.org. Around the Second Amendment, if we took the Second Amendment seriously and believed that it has something to do with well-regulated militias, then we would have an opening for taking guns and putting them in armories where they are controlled, any military-type hardware, where they are controlled, locked up, let out when it's appropriate, and where there's training and supervision. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, let's go back to our panel. Kevin Landrigan from the New Hampshire Union Leader.
Mr. Palmer, you referenced an end to endless war, so we'll start this question with you. Regarding the war in Gaza, should the U.S. be insisting upon an extended ceasefire in order to get all the American hostages out of Israel, or should we defer to the military and political leadership of Israel as to how to go forward?
As a Quaker by background, I think that all life is precious and every life has value. So a ceasefire is what the United States should be recommending with regards to the Israeli-Gaza conflict. We need to do everything in our power to minimize the loss of life. This conflict has been going on for decades, and America keeps kicking the can down the road. We need to show true leadership here. The Hamas terrorists who committed these atrocities must be brought to justice, but not at the expense of the Palestinian people. Both the Israelis and the Palestinians are living under corrupt governments. We can hold two thoughts in our head at the same time, and we need to focus on the loss of life.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Picard, thoughts?
Hi. I think back to when we were attacked by terrorists and what our reaction was as a country, and we just wanted to bomb everything because we were so angry and so hurt and didn't know what the solution would be. And I think that is an understandable reaction. I just don't think it actually furthers the goal of actually arriving at a peaceful solution. You can't really bomb people into peace. So I don't know that a ceasefire is the right answer. I don't even know that it's really under our control to dictate what the answer should be, but I appreciate that we should be making influence so that we can bring about peace as soon as possible.
Just to remind the original question, should the U.S. force a ceasefire to get American hostages out or follow the lead of Israel's military? Mr. NATO.
I do support the ceasefire. I believe America should pressure both sides, both Israel and Gaza, to come to the table. I also think it's important for the people of both countries to pressure their presidents to come to the table to find a solution. I do, however, not support funding a religious war. I believe not in putting Americans further into debt to funding a religious war. I believe it is up to the people of both Israel and Gaza and America as president to pressure these people in charge to come to the table to find a solution.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Mraz.
No ceasefire until all the Hamas are dead. They started it. They should all be dead. That's the end of that.
All right. Next candidate, please. Sorry, I can't see your name. There you go. Mr. Lyons. Yes.
Steve Lyons.
There you go.
Staying out of war is harder than going into war. Hamas, they attacked Israel. Israel has a right to protect themselves, but not at the cost of all Palestinians, the little kids, the women, the innocent that gets hurt. Give it a chance, let them get out. That's what I'd do if I was president. You give them a week, let them go. Get all the Palestinians out there that are innocent, and then let Israel go in there. I mean, they had a right to protect themselves, but not at the expense of human beings. Innocent human beings, little kids and everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lyons. Mr. Lozada.
Nobody deserves to be terrorized. And at that same token, fear-mongering should not be tolerated in any which way. Leading with any kind of fear or fear-mongering is having faith in evil. And I think that deep down, nobody wants to see anybody lose a life. Everybody here in this room has lost someone, and it's devastating. And what we're watching is, I don't believe the popular instance that both innocent Israelis nor innocent Palestinians believe. Just like my government doesn't speak for me in everything that they do, I don't believe everybody's against a lot of this hate, and I think there is ways that we could promote peace and working together. But I do see that there needs to be a ceasefire, at least to stop the violence.
Appreciate that. Bring it down, ma'am.
As a pro-lifer, I have a deep commitment to nonviolence, and I believe violence should only be used in the most egregious situations. And I want to agree with so many of my fellow panelists that life matters, obviously, and that we need to take this very seriously. watching my Instagram feed and seeing how many people are commenting on the plight of children in Palestine and in Israel, I obviously sympathize with that deeply, but I am constantly shocked by my peers' inability to see the genocide that is happening right here, right now. And I'm encouraging everyone to look at those victims.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir?
All right. Even Cambridge, as an intern for Barbara Lee, I have experiences working for the only person that voted against the Patriot Act and voted against going to war in Iraq. We need a rethinking about this in terms of the original sin of the creation of Israel was the fact that we disenfranchised the Palestinians when we created Israel. In order to bring that back into focus and fix that problem, we have to, one, bring Palestinian refugees back into Israel. We need to create an environment in which both people can find peace, which means possibly using the UN to reformulate the country. For example, Israel is currently breaking international law by building settlements in Palestine. The UN has already acknowledged this, but we aren't going to get. But we're not doing anything about it. Last but not least, Nelson Mandela said in South Africa when that apartheid ended that the job was not done. Shout out Kobe. The job was not done because there was still an apartheid in Palestine. As the U.S., we can control what happens there because we've been propping up Israel for far too long.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Mr. Caneo. And thank you very much for participating and folks in New Hampshire thinking about your community.
Thank you. All right, I want to be deadly serious. We have a lot of leverage here, and these are our allies, but who are we kidding? If these are American lives and our allies are bombing our American citizens who are taken hostage, that doesn't benefit anybody, especially us. Because if I'm Commander-in-Chief, my priority is bringing back Americans. So yes, a ceasefire is absolutely necessary for the safety of all Americans and all those that have been kidnapped. But because we have this leverage, it is important to leverage the fact that we can push for peace. It is possible to come to solutions because they are our allies. So in terms of following the might of the military, that's not something I'm in agreement with because I think peace is definitely possible and we have leverage to use.
Thank you very much. Sir?
It's an extremely complex issue. First and foremost, the pain, the emotion, the same on both sides. A mother holding their child on either side of the equation of this battle feel the same pain. I believe in a two-state solution. I believe that we're funding $100 million potentially for this effort. We do have leverage. I do believe, though, that terrorists need to be eliminated. Peace is a wonderful thing. I promote it. I believe it. When there's a cancer, the cancer needs to be eliminated in order to make the body healthy again. So I believe that both sides have a right to live in peace, but I believe that the international community need to eliminate the terrorists so both sides can live in peace.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Mr. Vail?
Of course there should be a ceasefire. It's pointless to have this slaughter going forward. I'm a Christian. My church uses as part of its liturgy a confession. I am thankful for somebody like Bernie Sanders who has the strength and courage to stand up and call out the Israeli government for the mistakes it is making. If we all were calling out the people in our own tribes, we would be much better off.
Thank you, Mr. Vail. And Mr. Supreme, obviously, I love the idea of a marshmallow gun, but I'll remind you this is a very sensitive issue, so What are your thoughts, please?
Yes, I believe I addressed this somewhat in my opening remarks. I am also a proponent of a two-state solution. I believe it's been a long time since America has had a few states added, and I think it would be a boon to the flag-making manufacturers of America. And yes, the 51st and 52nd state, Israel and Palestine, I believe we can put Israel somewhere in Wyoming and Palestine somewhere in Texas. They just need a little breathing room. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Vermin2024.com.
Appreciate that, Mr. Rist.
Kevin, I think to directly answer your question, these pauses are complex negotiating situations, and I don't know that we have the power to influence the Hamas very much, and so there's been prisoner swaps and negotiations about days and so on. But generally, I would agree that there should be a pause to get Americans out of there, if any way at all, that we can put the leverage on them. I'll just make it simple.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And wrapping up this topic, Paperboy.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't remember your last name.
It's Paperboy Love Prince.
There you go. I
Thank
appreciate that.
We need to spread love all across the world in a real way and take that very, very seriously. If you had war, I mean, some people, when they just hear shooting outside, they get afraid. And it's not a war. They're not coming for you. You get afraid. If there's an actual war on your soil, on your home, it's the most terrifying thing. But love, inspiration. I mean, if we actually tried that, if we put $800 billion into spreading love to folks, into supporting citizens in a way that starts to regenerate that love. Because right now, we're creating more terrorists. The more war, the more energy, the more hate, we're creating more terrorists, more people that are bloodthirsty for death and negativity. Why can't we create more people that want more love, that want more unity, that want more passion, that want to see us come together and create the future that we know is possible when we're living in our highest selves as people?
Thank you, Mr. Love Prince. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
All right, back to our panelists now, and Holly Raymer from the Associated Press.
President Biden, who finished 5th in the New Hampshire primary 4 years ago, is skipping at this time to comply with the DNC's changes to the nominating calendar. And as Secretary Scanlon referenced, Florida Democrats are scrapping their primary altogether. What do you make of these moves and the process by which we choose the nominees? Mr. Riss?
I'm nonsense. It's bullshit, really, because what it
Please
does...
be respectful of the crowd, folks.
I am sorry. New Hampshire having their primary first, right? It was this little state. A lot of people can get in, as you can see. That's awesome. It gets to open ideas, even if few of us stand a chance of winning. And yet, I think what he's trying to do is go to the turf that's safe for him, and he's trying to that way push people out, right? And he was the one who alluded to, passing the baton potentially, right? And he's not ready to do that. And his poll numbers are abysmal, and so, he should allow for, new generation to come up and run this country, and he's not doing that, and I think that is not good for our country.
Thank you, Mr. Rist. And for those who agree with Mr. Rist, please abbreviate the adjective. Paperboy Love Smith, please.
What I'll say is this. I ran for Congress in 2020 with $20 and got over 14,000 votes against a 26-year incumbent, and empowered a lot of people in that campaign. 2021, I ran for mayor of New York City, got over 80,000 votes in the city's first ranked choice voting election, and we're able to platform issues that folks weren't talking about at all. I ran for city council just this year, actually. I ran for city council in New York and Congress in 2020, the year before that. What's my point? It's so important to have folks that can put pressure on the system. That's what this democracy is all about. We already have so little representation as it is. Why try to silence voices? We should be finding more ways, with all the tools we have with technology and communication, we should be finding more ways for folks to come together and hyper vote on these issues, get more voices into the conversation. Right now, they're trying to shut it off because they know there's a lot of folks. They're trying to shut it off because they know there's a lot of folks with really powerful things to say, and they know that us as a community,
Mr. Prince, we
can
got to
change this world.
let your fellow candidates have the opportunity. I appreciate that. Thank you. Mr. Picard. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'll be quick. I think back on that very philosophical movie, Kung Fu Panda. And it showed that if you act out of fear, your fears will be realized. And that's what I think is the problem that we're facing with the approach that the Democratic Party is taking. That they're afraid that Biden is going to make a mistake and will cost him the election. And instead, the big mistake is by not engaging with the people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'll just add
Go
that
ahead.
this is probably the most important election of our generation, and it's very important that there be a positive vision of the future that the Democratic Party put out there for this election. If it's just against Trump, we already see the polling, we know how that's going to go. So there really needs to be a positive vision of the future and a movement of people to be ready for November next year. And that's why I've put my hat in the ring to put that positive vision out there with a large group of people behind me.
Mr. Nadeau, you're from New Hampshire. I'm interested in hearing your take on this, and here's your 3 extra seconds.
Yeah, I think President Biden is actually afraid of everyone up here. He's trying to change the rules to benefit himself, like they said earlier, go to a state where he feels more comfortable, and he uses excuses for that. New Hampshire's been first in the nation for over a century. President Biden will often try to change the rules to benefit himself or his own family. A double standard is usually his tactic to go to.
Mr. Mraz?
Yeah, demographically, it makes sense, thank you. It makes sense for Biden to do it. Next time around, it'll be back to normal. You'll have New Hampshire first, but I think he needs this win because if the other side gets in, it's a white nationalist fascist party. And I think after Biden gets in, we'll go back to the New Hampshire first policy. But it's all about race, like a lot of things in the country.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Lyons, what do you think?
Biden reminds me of what Trump did. Trump took, last time around, he took 6 states away from not being able to allow people to vote. It's ridiculous. And what Biden's doing now is just as worse. Leave it as it is. Let the people vote. You may be surprised. You might have next best thing to ice cream, and just standing here right now. But it's terrible what they do. They just take away and just use their political powers to say, well, I'm going to take away Florida. You can't do that. It's up to the people. Let the people vote who they want. Be honest with you, I don't think Biden has a chance this year. Too much weight, too far left, whatever. But he did exactly what he criticized Trump for.
Thank you, sir.
That's wrong.
Mr. Lozada, you agree that this is a form of election rigging?
It is devastating, I'll tell you that. I don't know how many candidates here are actually looking to appear on other ballots, but I'm on 8 so far. I would have been on more, but there's several states that specifically said, no, we're only putting Joe Biden on the primary. And I think that's undemocratic, I really do. I'm traveling, I'm doing out there, I'm actually getting out there. I represent the Latino community, and we don't have a lot of talk in politics. We don't have a platform there. And that's why representation matters. At least let me speak. If you're not worried about anything, let me be there. To take Florida away from me, that's ridiculous. I'm Puerto Rican descent. When we have a mass exodus that goes to Florida all the time, that's the highest population outside of Connecticut for Puerto Rican in the state. That's a huge battleground for me. You know, I have every right. The Constitution says I should be there. I'm allowed to, and I represent. I thank states for honoring those ballot access laws that allow us to have those platforms in states. And thank you to all the states that I've on so far, and the ones that I will continue to fight for.
Thank you, sir, ma'am.
Look, this isn't the first time that Joe Biden and the DNC have ignored the will of the voters. They have ignored the 4 in 10 Democrats who think that abortion should be restricted to the first trimester as often as they possibly can. And in fact, some years ago, the Democratic Party removed inclusion language in the party platform that allowed for a diversity of views on the abortion issue and replaced it with unrestricted abortion on taxpayer dollars. Does that represent you? Because it doesn't represent most Democrats, but they did it anyways.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so what made George Washington great? It wasn't the fact that he won battles. It wasn't the fact that he was the first president. It was the fact that when he had the opportunity to be king, he walked away. That's what makes America great. And Joe Biden is holding on to power in a way that if we continue down that road, whether it's Biden or Trump, we are seeing our democracy die slowly. I know that I called the Tennessee Democratic Party, I called the Michigan Democratic Party. I didn't receive any answer, and those parties were integral on getting me on the ballot. In terms of the state Democratic delegate plans, Tennessee's delegate plan says that you need to have your name in by December 10th, but they voted on it.
Just to keep it on focus, we're talking about New Hampshire. Just to keep it on focus.
Right. Well, I'm talking about the national race.
You got to wrap it up.
So they voted on who they were going to nominate and what names they were going to send to the Secretary of State a whole month before it was actually in their delegate plan. That's those kind of things done in secrecy make people feel like this economy or this country isn't really working.
Got to wrap you, and I'm sorry to wrap you, but we've got to get everybody in. Sir?
Yeah, thank you, New Hampshire, for allowing all these people with all our different ideas to be able to be heard. And thank you for allowing the voters to be able to determine who is the right leadership for them. I just want to point out the idea of what this indicates to the rest of America. If you're not willing to allow other candidates to be presentable to the constituency, are you really, I guess, indicating your strength? I mean, because honestly, if you're afraid of competition from we are the lesser known candidates, how do you think you're going to hold up against Trump? The reason why I'm in this race is because I couldn't stand to watch our country go down to Trump versus Biden 2.0. We can do better than this, and it starts at the top, and it starts with not taking action that's antithetical to democracy and giving power to the people that vote. So thank you again, New Hampshire, for affording us the opportunity. I hope the rest of the states hear this, and I hope they follow.
Great. Thank you, sir.
I need to reiterate what my students said earlier, that you need to be powerful, you need to be connected, and you have to be an institutional player in order to access ballots. I also want us to think about our party when we talk about the Republican Party trying to deny access for people to go out and vote and participate. Let's look at our own machinery. Our machinery, the people that are keeping people off the ballot, that are setting up the plan, that's not going to New Hampshire first. That is a tradition. So it is our own machinery that is creating a message to our young people that the game is rigged.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And I apologize if the candidates didn't get to weigh in on this issue, but we do need to move on to our closing statements. And we're going to start at the far left with Mr. Vail. Take 1 minute, please.
Thank you. The website is sendnomoney.org. My basic approach, my goal here is to serve as a ballot line, to be a ballot line, my name, John Vail, on which you can vote for what, not who. Money out of politics. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vail, for participating. Mr. Supreme.
Remember, there are two types of people on this planet. Those that love ponies and those that will not survive the transition times. The road to Ponatopia will not be easy. Not all of us will make it. There will be hardships. There will be sacrifices. Human sacrifices. But let me assure you this, the road to Ponatopia will be paved with the glitter-encrusted skulls of our vanquished enemies.
Yeah, got to wrap it. You want to mention the website? You are from the internet.
Vermin2024.com.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Rist, thank you, sir.
Name your pony.
Appreciate it.
Well, first, thank you for hosting this event. This is really great. I'm glad to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity. And I'm so glad I got to sit between these two guys. I don't know how I got so lucky on that.
You did great.
But I'm making the best of it, right? And I'm a serious candidate, and I really do think I have the leadership skills to do the job. And I just want people to listen to what I have to say. It's been really difficult getting any media traction in this country, and maybe today will change that. Because Biden is really doing abysmally. He promised to be a uniter. He's been anything but a uniter. The mess at the border hasn't gotten any better. And it's just, the problems with his son just won't go away. And that's just, if you want 4 more years of the same old thing, just vote for Biden. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get gridlock and investigations. That's what you're going to get. If you get Trump, you're going to get...
Mr. Russ.
Who knows?
Thank you very much, Mr. Riss. Appreciate that. Paperboy, Love Prince. Take 1 minute.
Can everybody say love? If we can do a little better, can everybody say love? Say love. Say love. I'm spreading love to the community. I'm on the block. I'm spreading unity. I'm being positive. What they gonna do to me? I'm in New Hampshire. I'm spreading unity. I'm here. I'm spreading love. I'm in your hood. I'm giving out hugs. Ha, paper, yeah. It's our time. Thank you all so much. New Hampshire, I love you so much, and I'm so excited about the future of this country. This campaign is about making a stake for the future of this country and doing things differently, really taking a hard pivot away from politics of the past and bringing us together with radical love and unity. And I'm not ashamed. I'm not afraid. I'm so, so proud to stand on love. I'm literally crying tears right now because I'm so happy to be here with you all. Can we just say it one more time? Love! Love. And can you just give the person next to you just a high five if you're just excited for America?
I love the energy and the positivity. Thanks very much. Next candidate, I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hi, Don Picard. I was raised in a Republican family, even though I've been a Democrat my entire adult life. And one thing that I want to caution is that you may not support Trump, and please don't, but you should support his supporters. You should listen. I know of people in my family who are highly educated and are well-informed, although their information sources are different from mine. You need to be able to talk. You can disagree, but don't dehumanize anyone. Because if you can't actually talk your ideas through, then you're just going to be creating more problems. Thank you.
Makes sense. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Next candidate. 1 minute.
Well said. Hello again. My name is Jason Palmer, and my website is jasonpalmer.us. Earlier, when I first came in, I talked to a few of my fellow candidates, and it was really interesting to hear over the course of the night how many of us were saying similar things. Love, unity, working together, working across party lines. That's the only way we're going to win this election, is if we actually work together. It's so impressive that multiple candidates mentioned that they're on the ballot in multiple states, like myself. We have to build our economy up. Our people need to get upskilled for the 21st century. We need to embrace the technology that is our future. Manchester has done such a fantastic job of building this city up. I was meeting with the mayor earlier today. So impressive what this city has done. Southern New Hampshire University, where I've known President LeBlanc for almost 20 years now, the largest university in the United States of America. We can do what's been done in Manchester in the entire country. And I invite you to go to my website and learn more about my candidacy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Nato.
Thank everyone for coming out tonight. Secretary Scanlon, Neal, and St. Anselm's for hosting the event. I believe America needs a president who is in their prime rather than on the decline. I'm asking American people to stop voting based on their favorite color and who they're going to trust with their children's future. Now more than ever, we need a president who's going to be a champion for the people, fearless and without bias. So help me God, I intend to break the wheel and put the power back into the people's hands. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nato. Appreciate that. Mr. Mraz, 1 minute, please.
Elect Moroz, can you hear that? Help the workers of the USA by increasing unions, and if not, please write in Joe Biden because he has helped us tremendously in the labor movement.
Mr. Lyons.
Today is December 7th. A lot of people forget today is 1941. Pearl Harbor Day, which I have father served in World War II. My uncle was there when it was being bombed. We must not forget this stuff. We also must not forget our men and women are serving today. Basically, 24 hours, 7 days a week, protecting this beautiful country. Next time you see one person, thank them. Number two is I want to see this country turn around in the worst way. And go to my website, lions2024.com. I have everything in writing, which most politicians would never do. So I believe if you read about me or read about any of these gentlemen in the thing, find out what the truth is. No flip-flopping. That's the kind of guy I am. So thank you. Happy holidays. Happy Hanukkah tonight.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
that's
Lyons.
it.
Thank you, sir.
As mentioned, I don't take corporate money, so please donate at my Act Blue. Frankie with an IE, number 4 us, so frankieforus.com. I just want to close with a message to the Democratic Party. You can make this race as hard as you want. In high school, I was a champion runner, and my strength is running hurdles. So just back then, somehow, some way, I'm going to win gold.
Thank you, sir. Best of luck to you, ma'am.
Just a few months before I found that box of aborted babies, I helped a mom in that same abortion center cancel her abortion appointment. She was facing eviction, a series of hardships, and I raised $4,000 for her, and she canceled her abortion because she didn't want the abortion. She was just broke. $4,000 is a lot of money to most Americans, but it is a tragedy that is what so often stands between parents being able to keep their children and an exploitive industry going after them to profit from it, to exploit their situation for profit. And I think that this is something that Republicans just can't address. It is up to us, Democrats, to recognize the injustice that's happening so that we can provide for people in this country, so that we can do the hard work of creating safe and sustainable communities for every American. And if you agree with that value, I invite you to visit my website, Teresa2024.com, and join the Teresa for President community.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Cambridge, 1 minute, please.
Okay, Eben Cambridge on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. Vote Cambridge 2024 on Instagram. Vote Cambridge 24. The streets are talking. You have a lot of people like celebrities, even like Cardi B, that are going on social media and saying they don't feel that energy from the Democratic Party. We're going to need those people, or we're going to lose. I am the only candidate really that is constantly put up policies that I know we can pass. For example, an hourly tax, a tax cut on overtime for hourly workers, a tax on corporations buying residentially zoned housing, and also more imaging at hospitals. Those 3 things alone will make our healthcare system better. It'll make more Americans have money in their pockets, and it'll increase our housing.
Thank you,
Not
Mr.
only
Cambridge.
that, but go to my GoFundMe, vote for Cambridge 2024. I need your help. Thank you and have a nice night.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Mr. Canale.
Yeah, so I'm the oldest of 3 boys, and my dad calls me the family estate manager. So to give you context, I moved to Las Vegas during the middle of the pandemic because my grandfather's mouth and legs stopped working, and nobody in the community could pick him up. During that time, he had a flood as well. So I moved out there, I renovated their home, and I looked after my grandparents ever since. And that's at the crux of who I am. So if anything, I want you to walk away with knowing the content of my character is to look after friends, family, and community. Because I was in an unfortunate near-fatal car accident in 2011, and I became hyper-aware of that we're not promised tomorrow. And so for me, I hope that I've gained your support today because I'd like to help shape our country so that we all have a better experience. And again, I'd like to start with healthcare, and we all know that's broken. So hopefully, you'll support me at GABE2024.com if you're interested. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. And the last word.
Thank you. I want us to take a moment and think about some of the people that we know that are suffering in life. If you have a family member, if you have a friend, or if you have a neighbor that have died from an overdose, I want you to think about the time you drove down your street in town and you'd find somebody under a bridge or on the sidewalk. I want you to think about the time we would be on the road and we see somebody with a sign, hungry, please help. I want you to think about the elderly that you know that have to sacrifice food or medicine. And then I want us to think about how our party runs. Unfortunately, too many politicians run on sound bites. We have too much work to do, too much uncompleted pain to solve. I thank you. I know I'm not going to win. I want to thank my students for believing that anybody can run for president. Anybody can get out there and effectuate change in anybody's life. Thank you all, and thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you very much. And you know, for a panel, for a group of candidates this size, I want to thank you for being respectful of each other and for participating. I know it's not easy. Let's give them a big round of applause. And thank you for joining us once again. Now we have the lesser-known Republican candidates, but potentially diamonds in the rough, for the debate here at the New Hampshire Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College. Again, rules of the road, opening statements, 90 seconds, answers right around a minute. Please be respectful of each other. Don't use any props, turn off your cell phones, and if you plan to be disruptive, Dave Scanlon is going to get you. So I'm just kidding. So we're going to introduce everybody. Oh, by the way, our panelists asking questions. We have Kevin Landrigan from New Hampshire Union Leader, and from the Associated Press, Holly Raymer. Sorry about that. All right, now to introduce our candidates and start the opening statements. First one is Scott Allen Ayers from Carpentersville, Illinois. Sir, please.
America has serious problems and needs a serious president to solve them. I know I'm the one the majority of Americans are looking for, someone to be the alternative to Donald Trump. Sadly, because of the way the system is set up, they probably won't get their wish. As a Republican, I tried my best to get on Fox News to announce my candidacy. But because I'm not well-known or rich, they wouldn't even give me the time of the day. And without that, you're not able to really put together a major campaign organization to start your campaign off, which is too bad, because I think I have some of the best policies to fix our country. They're listed on my website, scottallenayers.com. Even though I've never been a political candidate before, I've been a political junkie for more than 25 years. I never thought about running office until God called on me to run, which surprised me because at the time I was as big a Donald Trump supporter as anybody. Then it hit me. Then God must not want Donald Trump to be our nominee. That doesn't mean he won't be, because people have free will. So then I was trying to figure out what to do next. What am I supposed to do? Take out my cell phone and say, hey Google, why doesn't God want Donald Trump to be our nominee? Well, turns out he gave me some reasons why. One of those is Donald Trump has multiple personality disorder. The first one I called Don the Con, because of things like him saying, China paid billions and billions of dollars in tariffs, and I gave 28 billion of those to our great farmers. Turns out that's a fake talking point.
20 seconds, sir.
U.S. importers paid the tariffs and passed it on to us consumers through higher prices. And the 28 billion turned out to come from taxpayers. The second one I called Delusional Donnie, because he consistently says ridiculous things that turns out to be untrue. And when somebody questions him, he says, I didn't say that, when it's right there on the tape. And does anybody believe that he really could declassify documents just by thinking about it? The third one is the best one, but I don't have time to reveal that. So if someone contacts me at scottallenayers@reagan.com, I'll be glad to set up an interview.
Appreciate that. Next one, Peter Jeddick from, is that Rocky River, Ohio? Firefighter, thank you for your service.
Thank you, St. Anselm, and I'm not your typical candidate for President of the United States. My name is Peter Jeddick, and I'm a best-selling author, and I'm a historian, but I was also a City of Cleveland, big city fireman for over 30 years. So I bring a different perspective to the table. We have to make this fast, so I'm just going to give you my platform real quick. First of all, we need to forgive all student loan debt and pay off and give rebates to anybody who already paid theirs off. We don't need our students starting off in life with a huge debt on their shoulder. And then we need to make colleges affordable again. I also want to eliminate the federal income tax and replace it with a flat tax that's much more equitable and fair for everyone. And then I want to put term limits on our congressmen and our senators, just like we have on our president, so that we don't have any more professional politicians who become multimillionaires on government salary, like Joe Biden. And then I want to move Washington, D.C. out of that corrupt East Coast beltway to somewhere in the country where people understand the value of a dollar, like here in New Hampshire. And once we do that, we can finally pass the balanced budget amendment and start tackling our $33 trillion national debt, which is going to destroy our country before you know it. If any of these ideas interest you, you can find the details on my website, peterjeddickforpresident.com, or pick up a copy of my book, Why America is Bankrupt, Who Did It, and How to Fix It. Thank you, St. Anselm, and God bless America.
Might have to confiscate that prop, though. Just kidding. Thank you,
It's all
Mr.
yours
Jeddick.
after-
Appreciate it.
I give it to you.
Let's introduce Mary Maxwell from Concord, New Hampshire.
My website is called constitutionandtruth.com, and I would go so far as to call myself a maniac in terms of supporting both of those things, the Constitution and truth. If we would only respect the Constitution or implement it properly, it's almost a miracle item, and it would most easily, compared to anything else, bring an end to some of the monstrosities that are happening, such as child trafficking, the robotization of all jobs, transhumanism. That is happening, people. It's happening without our say-so. Many things are happening without anyone's say-so, you may have noticed during the pandemic. And the upward movement of money from poor to rich, which won't stop. There's nothing there to dissuade that upward movement. So I'm telling you that if you get out your old copy of the Constitution and wave it around and look at it, may sound a bit boring, but that is our solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maxwell. Introducing next is Glenn McPeters from Essex Junction, Vermont.
Hi, my name's Glenn McPeters, and I want to quickly thank the college and the Institute of Politics for giving us this opportunity that we probably would not have had. I also want to thank my wife, who's, without her support, I probably wouldn't be here. And I would like to take, before I move on, just a few seconds for us to just say a quick little silent prayer for all of our fallen Americans from Pearl Harbor so many years ago. Right, so I spent 24 years at IBM Corporation solving problems every day. I left IBM and spent another 15 or 16 years trying to rediscover life from the corporate world. And I now run my own small business transporting special needs children to school. The things that are most important to me are the border. The border is got to be closed. There are so many bad characters and possible terrorists that are coming in across the river, and they're just going to be worse. They're building sleeper cells. They're costing us millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to support them. And I see the hand is up, so I'll move on.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Appreciate that. We'll get back to you shortly. Now introducing Scott Peterson Merrill of Norwood, Connecticut.
Hi, my name's Scott Merrill. I was born and raised in Rowayton, Connecticut. I'm a doctor of veterinary medicine, and I've done a lot of different things in life. I'm running for president, and it might seem like a strong statement to make, but I'm running for president to prevent World War III. I'm running for president so this college group, your biggest threat isn't a student loan. You signed a contract, read the Constitution. No one can forgive a contract. The president never had the right to forgive a contract. That's just the fundamental principles of law. You've got a ground war in Europe. NATO's genius of NATO's design, even though it's got some flaws, the genius of NATO's design was strictly defensive. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. It'll never be a member of NATO. That will never happen. Giving away all our military equipment like it's a freebie, giving away our helicopters, leaving like $80 billion worth of stuff in Afghanistan. It's just total incompetence. And I'll tell you what I really think of the Democrats, because I'm an honest person. There ain't nothing democratic about the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is the world's largest labor racketeering organization, and that's how they buy and sell the votes to fix the elections. That's just how the game works. The more you give away, who gave away all our industries? It was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton made the deal with China. Just give everything away, everything for free.
30 seconds.
We got to get control of our own country. And the biggest crime ever committed against the American citizen is the United States of America should have been the world's largest creditor nation. China, Japan should have never been in our ballpark. The biggest crime done against the citizens is deficit spending and creating a $30 trillion debt bomb for the next generation. This is the first generation that's failed the younger generation. They've failed them all across the board, promising something you're never going to get. In the real world, there ain't nothing you get for free that's worth anything. If something's for free, there's something wrong.
We got to wrap it up. Thank you very much, sir. And our final Republican candidate to be introduced from right across the border, Darius Mitchell, Lowell, Massachusetts.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Good evening. And I'm running for president because I'm concerned about the direction of the country. You know, there's so much divisiveness and hate in the world, and I'm concerned about the stature of the president. So many people around the world always looked up to America to do the right thing and look out for everybody else. And we've kind of lost that over the last 4 to 8 years. You know, like everything going on in Gaza right now, you know, we have to care about human life, you know, and you look around our country, and every day there's some type of new nonsense gun violence. I was born on Dover Air Force Base in 1973. The same year Joe Biden was sworn in as a Delaware senator. 50 years ago. I'll be 50 in a week or two. And the things that young people have to worry about these days, we didn't have to worry about. We didn't have to worry about going to school, looking over our shoulder, going to the movies, the grocery store. And something, you know, it's time to move on. It's time for a new president, somebody who is going to bring America back to the stature they're known for. You know, we haven't had a president visit Africa probably since Obama went to Nelson Mandela's funeral.
Got about 10 seconds, sir.
10 years ago. But then you look and you see Putin going to Africa, you see Xi going to Africa, and we need to bring back America's stature in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Appreciate that. Let's get to the Q&A portion of this debate, starting with Holly Raymer and the Associated Press.
Since the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, some states are enacting bans on abortion. Other states are enshrining reproductive rights in their constitutions. Should this stay a state issue, or is there a role for the federal government? Sure.
Well, as president, I believe you have to follow the Constitution. So there's no abortion rights in the Constitution, so I believe it's up to the states. I don't think we should be trying to legislate abortion anyway. The only way to solve the abortion issue is through winning the hearts and minds. You have to deal with the science. Show people through ultrasounds when a baby is actually alive, as far as heart beating, feels pain, stuff like that. Chances are more women take the baby to term if you do that. You can't just try to legislate how people feel.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Jeddick, same question.
Yeah, I believe it's states' rights. I don't think that anything we can keep the federal government out of, I think that's for the better, no matter what it is, and abortion is one of them. I think it should be a state's job to decide that. My personal feeling on abortion is I should have been an abortion. I came at a bad time for my parents. My dad was in college. It kind of hurt their life a lot, but they back then you couldn't have an abortion, but I think they were Catholics, so they wouldn't have had one anyway. But if it was today, they would have probably thought, well, let's have an abortion, we can have another kid later. So I'm thankful that I'm here, and I think that's the way people should look at it. Many of you people here in this room, you could have been abortions. Think of it that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jeddick. Ms. Maxwell.
No federal role in anything, including education, that is not listed in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution. And as to whether states should involve, well, I can't say that they're forbidden to. They can, but there'll never be agreement on abortion. And when it would happen, when a law would happen to say the doctor must not do this, you would immediately have a black market of doctors, or you would have girls using the coat hanger method. It just isn't solvable politically. But to answer the question, would a president be involved? No, other than in the bully pulpit to say, life is sacred, folks.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my views on abortion are pretty simple. I think abortion in any shape or form is murder. But I think our country has bigger problems than abortion, and I want to go back to the border. And in the last 2 years, how over 5 million people have come across that border illegally. And so far this year, we've spent over $150 billion to house, feed, clothe, and all this other. Within 5 or 6 years, that bill to us taxpayers is going to be over $1 trillion a year. We need to stop this madness now.
Thank you, Mr. McPeters. Mr. Merrill.
There's obviously no legislative solution to abortion because you can't regulate morality. You need to make, the country pro-life country. One way as president, if I make it, you can make every state require one of your major colleges in that state to be a pro-life college that could provide basics like dorms that can be for married couples, child care for the students, some basic simple things. So if a girl gets pregnant, she was in college, she doesn't have to press the eject button. There's a system where she could raise the kid and continue her education. In the modern society, the way it's structured, if a girl's a college student, she becomes pregnant, she's either got to quit college and go home and terminate her career. So the problem is make America pro-life instead of lecturing people and talking down to them, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, and they're all hypocrites anyhow. But constitutionally, legally, the federal government is supposed to regulate interstate commerce. Abortions aren't interstate commerce, so it should have never been in the purview of the federal government.
Okay.
Can I say one more thing that's important, though?
Quickly, please.
If I'd been president, I think the Dow decision is the greatest thing that happened in America in like 100 years. But I would have issued as president to all the states, you cannot change the abortion laws until they're brought in.
We got to get to
18
Mr. Mitchell.
24 months, then you can start to make it more restrictive. You can't just say one day it's this and the next day it's that.
Mr. Merrill, we got to get to Mr.
Okay,
Mitchell.
sorry about that.
It's all right. Go ahead. Mr. Mitchell, please.
I would hope it would be a state issue. And I think ever since that Joe Biden brought the abortion issue to the forefront in our politics, that we've put a lot of issues on the back burner. Like, too many young people are being gunned down in our country every day. Too many people are losing their children, and too many people are losing their parents in this country. And we need to get back to talking about God, God bless America, one nation under God, and God we trust. And it's, the last 3 years, it's been mostly abortion, and national politics. But we got to get back to public safety and the value of life. And it's just amazing some of the stats. Georgia has over 100 kids under 18 gunned down in 2023. And you never hear the president say anything about it. You never hear the vice president say anything about it. And we need to get back to protecting life.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Actually, a good segue to the next question. Kevin Landrigan, Union Leader.
Yeah, maybe we should start with Mr. Mitchell on this.
Agreed.
We're having this forum on the heels of a deadly shooting at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and the tragic shooting of a New Hampshire hospital security officer in Concord, New Hampshire, a couple of weeks ago. Is there any form of gun control that you think could help quell this violence? And if not, does this increased level of mass shooting speak more about the lack of mental health treatment in this country, and what would you do to change it?
Starting with me?
Yes.
It's funny. I've been watching Kevin for like 20 years, since John Kerry, Howard Dean. I was coming up here, so it's crazy. I always followed it, you know.
You're using your time, though, sir.
20 years ago, the Union Leader was big. When John Kerry got the Union Leader endorsement, it was like, wow, he's, you know. But we need a president who has emotional ties to communities. We need a president who is about more than just money. You know, we need a president that has done and experienced America outside of Washington. You know, I read about gun violence, and I was in Burlington, Vermont 2 weeks ago, and it was on the news. It's Burlington, you know, it's a mountain town, and there's so many shootings. It's shootings. Even before the Palestinian kids were shot, it was shootings on the news.
You got about 15 seconds, sir.
Street shootings, and then you have the main mass shooting, and then the officer, the retired police chief. And we need a president to set a new president to set the narrative in the country, to bring back the American spirit.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Appreciate that. Got to move on. And I'm for the record, a big fan of Kevin Landrigan myself. But going to Mr. Merrill next.
The problem with all this violence is the creation of the internet. The video cameras and all this video stuff. When I was a kid, if you want to be a movie star, you couldn't do it because you got to be like Elizabeth Taylor or something. Nowadays, anybody with a cell phone can be linked. Basically what you've taken over my lifetime is all the kooks used to be isolated in their own worlds. Now they're all internet connected. One kook gives the other kook the idea, and then eventually you find a kook that'll actually do it. You need to put, and I'm 100% for the free press. I'll defend that 100% if I'm elected. But you have to have it so you take away the news loop, like when you had the tragedy with George Floyd, and you show it over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. You're basically giving like people mental poison through the internet. They give all this glamorous coverage to Hamas. Even Dershowitz said they're using Dershowitz called it the CNN strategy. You've got to take it so if you're a murderer, you have a 30-day trial, and if it's all this video evidence against you, you get publicly executed. So there's a cause and effect. You got to ban the names and the likenesses of all these mass murderer nutcases like you have in was it Maine? They're just everywhere. They're getting
Thank you,
this
Mr.
because
Merrill.
they think it's like their chance at stardom on the internet.
We got to
People
move.
have always done crazy stuff to be famous.
Thank you, sir. Mr. McPeters, same question.
We need to bring law and order back to our country. The current catch and release method is not working. It's not. We've all lived it. It's not working. People need to be held accountable for their actions. Now, they do something wrong, they're back out in 24 hours. There's no accountability. And part of that lies on the backs of the judges and prosecutors. They need to toughen up. We need to go back to a law and order way of society. We can't just constantly let this stuff happen. We can't. People just run in a store now, they pick up what they want and they leave. And if you try to stop them, you're the bad guy. We need to change the fundamental way that this country thinks about crime and go back to the way it was when I was a youngster.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that, Mr. Jeddick. I'm sorry, my apologies, Ms. Maxwell.
I think that the majority of shootings, but I don't mean individual homicides, I mean what is called shootouts or mass killings, are done by persons who have been goaded into that, maybe under hypnosis or God knows what. And you will notice it said he turned the gun on himself. So why is someone motivated to go out and kill 14 people and then kill himself? You would think someone intending suicide, I don't think you would mix it in with killing 14 people. So I think the whole thing has been set up and is somehow being orchestrated. And I have offered my service to courts as an expert witness on mind control. I've spent many years studying it, and at my website you will see some of the books on that subject written by me. So I can't take the law and order position there, or even the mental health position.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate that, Mr. Jeddick.
Here's my view of the Second Amendment. I think it's a great amendment. It goes back to the Revolution here in New Hampshire when the British armies could come into your house and you had no defense. So I think everybody here should be glad that we have a Second Amendment, that anybody can own a gun. I don't own a gun, but if I want to go out and buy a gun, I don't want some federal bureaucrat in Washington telling me I bought marijuana when I was in college and I can't have a gun. So who's going to decide who owns a gun or not? That's the problem. As far as these mass shootings, I think that all goes back to the breakdown in the family. Somebody in the family should know that this person is dangerous, that this person is spending too much time on the internet, and he went out and bought 3 guns, and someone should stop him there. I don't think it's, we got 400 million people in America. You get a mass shooting once a month, maybe. That's 1 in 400 million. How are you going to stop that? I mean, I know it's wrong. I know it's terrible, but I don't think they can regulate it. I think it's up to the families. That's my view. Peter
Thank you,
Jeddick,
Mr. Jeddick. Mr. Ayers.
I don't think there should be any restrictions whatsoever on legal gun ownership. I'm from Illinois, so I know what's going on in Chicago and a lot of the other Democrat cities. Criminals aren't going to obey the law, no matter what laws you put in place. So if every American that has the proper training can carry a gun, either concealed or open carry, that would minimize a lot of these mass shootings, because there is a problem with mental instability in this country. Look at one of the recent mass shootings in this area. The shooter went to 3 different locations. If there was a person carrying a gun at the first shooting, he could have ended it. But with putting more restrictions, criminals are never gonna follow the law. And we're living in the real world where Democrats don't put criminals in jail. So what else are we supposed to do? Just sit there and be taken advantage of and sitting ducks? I think we should also pass a law that says if you know somebody is about to commit a criminal act with a gun, you have to report them. Otherwise, you can be charged legally, because there's no consequences for actions of anything going on today. A lot of people have had warnings about these mass shootings, but for some reason they never came forward. So we need to change the way we look at everything in society today.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers. And before we get to the final question of this debate, I have a quick one. By a show of hands, how many of you believe that the 2020 election was stolen or rigged, however you want to characterize it?
So what do you mean by stolen or rigged? That's kind of too vague of a question. Do you mean that the voting machines were
Do you believe
changed?
that the election outcome was the will of the people or manipulated?
I believe that Joe Biden was declared
Show of
the
hands.
winner. But I have no respect for the integrity of our election process. There's too many things with mail-in
Show of
ballots and
hands.
stuff.
I got you. Thanks. Appreciate that. Kevin?
Kind of in that vein, if any of you were elected, how would you approach the office on a personal level or in a management style that would be different than former President Trump did?
If anybody wants to go to my website, scottallenayers.com, I think I have pretty good answers to all the problems that are facing our country today, specifically on the economy. I've been in retail my entire life, so I would approach it somewhat from a business standpoint. But I think we need a president with more integrity than we have on either party. And I would be the one to pledge to put people in charge of every government agency that's for us regular people, not for the corporations. And I have a plan to fix the economy, the inflation, and the budget mess from day one. It's on my website if you look underneath the economy section.
Mr. Jeddick.
Yeah, as far as management style, you know, everybody knows that I like President Trump, but as you know, he just comes across wrong. He turns off young people, he turns off women, he turns off a lot of big voting blocks by the way he talks. So as far as his management style, setting up a government, he was a little lax on some of the people he put in key positions too, because I think he inherited a lot of them. But if I became president, I think the first thing you'd have to do is take a big scalpel to the federal government, because that's, like I talked earlier, we have a $33 trillion debt we're dumping on our kids, and that's because the government is way too big. In fact, just the U.S. Department of Education, which I get into in my website and my book, U.S. Department of Education now has a $270 billion budget. When I started paying taxes, when I started working at 16 years old, the whole federal debt was only $300 billion. So you could, back then, if we had that U.S. Department of Education, you could just eliminate it and get the whole country out of debt.
Mr. Jeddick, we got to.
Just check out peterjeddickforpresident.com.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Maxwell.
At the original Constitution Convention in 1787, the arrangement for a president was almost an afterthought. I mean, the main thing was Congress, and one of the delegates that contributed said, well, we could have like a triumvirate president. But I think we could have like a 45,000 triumvirate. In other words, one man can't do the job. It's just too much. So I would try to bring in many other faces of Americans that are saying, what can they really put in that, you know, long story short, the president's job is too much. It shouldn't come down to somebody's personality.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think the management style would be that you pick your cabinet wisely and you clearly lay out to them your priorities and what you want them to do. And if I were elected president, one of the first things I would instruct my cabinet to do would be to get people off of these entitlement programs. We seem to be having an epidemic of people that don't want to work, and they want the rest of us to pay for their lifestyle. This has to end. I think that if you're collecting money off of the government, then you should be giving some work back to the government. I don't want to hear that you have daycare. You don't have nobody to watch your children. We'll provide you daycare. We'll provide you transportation. We will give you a job. We are not going to give you money for you to sit around and watch TV and play video games.
All right, and with that, let's move to Mr. Merrill.
I would run the office of the president at the highest professional standards. I wouldn't hire people because they're team A or team B or they know Joe Smith's cousin. Obama's mistake too was he didn't pick the right team. I believe in the team like that movie Hoosiers. You got to pick the right team. You really look historically, you guys might be better at this than me, but who was our greatest team? It was our first team. You had Washington, John Adams. Thomas Jefferson was the greatest intellectual force the United States ever had. There's nobody in his ballpark. So people, the younger generation that don't respect Thomas Jefferson, you really should go find a different country to live in. It's true. You got to run a team professionally. I have the professional experience at the top end of the horse business. I worked for the richest people in the world. You had the highest standards. I operated on a horse that cost $1 million as a yearling or something. There actually is, this is 100% truth. One more second. There's higher professional standards by far.
You got 10 seconds.
At a racetrack, controlling horse races integrity than there is in any election in the United States of America.
Thank you, Mr. Merrill. And wrapping up the debate, Mr. Mitchell, you have the final word.
Well, I supported President Trump in 2016, and I enjoyed the Trump presidency. You know, I thought it was time for an entrepreneur to be a president, but, you know, things change, and the country has changed, and we need a different type of president. I thought that I'm big on Lincoln and the team of rivals, Doris Kearns Goodwin, and I thought he had a chance to make Mitt Romney his Secretary of State. And I think that's the biggest ball he dropped, because then Mitt turns around and becomes a Utah senator and votes against him twice for impeachment. So if I was president, and also we have a 70-year embargo against Cuba, and China is building this army over there, and we have all types of relationships with people. And I think after 15 presidents and 70 years, if I was president, I would end the embargo. I would tear down that wall.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell, and thank you to all of our participants, our candidates. Best of luck to you moving forward. Let's have a round of applause for you. Thank you very much for what you're doing. Appreciate it. It's not easy. And thank you all for joining us here at the Institute of Politics at St. Anselm College, our friends at C-SPAN for broadcasting this. Have a great night.